put him as a role model. You cannot compare Jesus with Muhammad. Jesus never killed a person. He never killed an apostate. He never waged a war. So he was a role model for me. That's why I loved Muhammad and I wanted to follow Jesus. They are going to keep trying, bring the Old Testament. Name one person that Jesus killed because he was an apostate.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Christians are the last persons to speak or to reject killing, because Christians, they have no love and they have no salvation without killing innocent Jesus in a barbaric way on the cross in the name of love. John 3:16, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. So Christian cannot have love of God or salvation without killing innocent Jesus. So if killing innocent Jesus in a barbaric way on the cross means love to you, divine Satan. So therefore Christians are the last person who reject killing, because your faith, salvation and God's love is based and built on killing innocent Jesus in a barbaric way on the cross. And without such ugly crime, you have no love and you have no salvation. Now, Rashid Hamami was totally exposed in this discussion or debate. First of all, he rejected the Old Testament. And the Bible says that you cannot reject the Old Testament. Jesus says that you have to follow the Old Testament, or otherwise you will be in the least kingdom of heaven. And you read this in Matthew chapter 5 verse 17, 18, 19, where Jesus says, I did not come to destroy the laws of the prophet, I came to fulfill. Then he said in Matthew 5:19 that whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, which means laws of Moses or of the prophets, and shall teach men, so he shall be called the least in kingdom of heaven. So Rashid Hamami should be called the least in kingdom of heaven because he did not follow the commandment and the rules of Jesus in the New Testament, and he rejected the Old Testament. Jesus actually ordered the killing of apostate in the New Testament, and I will read you some of them. If you read Hebrew chapter 10 verse 28, he that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. In other versions like AMPC, it says any person who has violated and thus rejected and set at naught the law of Moses is put to death without pity or mercy on the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If you read in CAB the same verse, Hebrew 10:28, it says when someone rejected the law from Moses, like Rashid Hamami, he rejected the laws of Moses in regard of killing apostate in the Old Testament, they were put to death without mercy on the basis of the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. So why don't you apply this verse on Rashid Hamami, who rejected and denied the law of Moses and the prophets in the Old Testament? Jesus even said, burn who abides not in me, which means if you reject Jesus, or if you stay away from Jesus, or if you deny Jesus, you should be burned. And you read this in John chapter 15 verse 5 and verse 6. Jesus says, when you read the red text, that means those are the words of Jesus, that they came out of the mouth and lips of Jesus. Jesus was saying, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me and I in him, the same bring forth much fruit, for without me ye can do nothing. Verse 6, Jesus says clearly, if a man abides not in me, he cast forth as a branch and withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide not in Jesus, if you deny Jesus, if you reject Jesus, therefore you should be burned. They have to cast you into the fire, and they are burned like apostate. Also, Jezebel and her children were killed because she claims to be a prophetess, false prophet. And you read this in Revelation chapter 2 verse 20 and verse 23, and it's written in red text. It says Notwithstanding, I have few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which called herself prophetess. What happened to her? Verse 23, and I will kill her children with death. She will be killed and her children will be killed with death, because she claimed to be a prophet and she is a false prophet. I hope that this answer the claims of Rashid Hamami. He was absolutely exposed out of ignorance. Thank you very much. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.